Hi, I'm Lucy. I'm the early years dietitian. I am a paediatric dietitian and an early years feeding specialist. And in this video, I'm going to be talking to you about one of the topics that probably comes up with almost every single family that I work with. And really, it is applicable across the board to pretty much all children. So whether you've got a young baby and you're still milk feeding, whether you've got a fussy toddler or preschooler, or whether you've got a slightly older child who you're worried about their weight. This topic is something called self-regulation, and it is all about understanding that your child knows how much food they need to eat. Now, it can be quite a difficult thing for parents to wrap their brains around and to accept, because in society, we seem to have got to a place where we as parents think we understand our children's appetites, their hunger, their fullness better than they do. And I'm here today to tell you that that is not the case. Now, we know that children are very good at understanding how much food they need through lots of research. And just the fact that we know if we leave a child to eat to their own appetite, they will eat the amount that they need. And the reason it's important to think about it is because appetites are going to fluctuate meal to meal and day to day. And during periods of growth, for example, you're going to see that your child gets much hungrier when they're having a growth spurt, and we should leave them to take charge of that. We also see fluctuations in appetite when your child is ill, for example, and you'll see the appetite decrease. But then afterwards, once they feel better, naturally the appetite will increase to make up for lost time and to make up for lost calories that they haven't eaten. And this process generally works well unless we start getting involved. So sometimes parents start getting involved because they think their child isn't eating enough, or they think that their child is eating too much. And when we start to get involved, that's when it doesn't work so well. Now, if you're sat there thinking, well, I don't believe that that's a thing. I don't believe that my child knows how much food they need to eat. I'm going to take you right back to the beginning. And if you breastfed your baby, and the reason I'm talking about breastfeeding is because breastfeeding is not visual. Bottle feeding is absolutely fine. I'm not down on bottle feeding, but it is visual. We can see how much milk is being taken, and therefore we can't use it for this example. But if you are breastfeeding, or you breastfed, or you've seen a baby breastfeeding, have a think about the fact that we as humans, we're pretty defenseless. We couldn't be left to our own devices as a newborn baby, but what a baby does know how to do is instinctively crawl to the breast and start feeding. And when a baby does that, we kind of say to ourselves, oh, they're hungry, they needed a feed. And we know that that baby is full and that they are satisfied and have enough to eat when they stop feeding. They unlatch or they fall asleep and they're satisfied. And we kind of keep that trust for around 6 months. They cry or they show us signs of being hungry. We put them to the breast, they feed, they stop feeding, and we say they're hungry. They're not hungry, they're satisfied. Now, fast forward a few months and we get to the start of the weaning process, and all that trust seems to go out of the window. All of a sudden we're starting with meow, with the aeroplane, then we start with the just have one more mouthful, or if you eat that bit of chicken you can get your pudding. And all of those things are devised to help a child to eat more than they naturally want to. And what I want to encourage you to do is no longer do any of those things. Go back to, or start to think about, if your child says, I'm full, trusting in that message and allowing them to stop eating. So how do you know that your child has had enough to eat? There's two main things that I would be looking for as a dietitian working with a family. The first of those is exactly what I've just said. Does your child tell you that they are full, either by just stopping eating or by telling you that they have had enough? If they are satisfied in between their meals, That tells me they've eaten enough. The second thing is, are they growing as we would expect them to? If they're following their growth chart and they're telling you they're satisfied, that is a child that is eating enough food across the day, across the week, across their life. Okay. Now, there are some ways for us to start supporting your child in that message, because if you are in a place where you're not doing this at all, it feels like you're never going to be able to, there's a couple of things that we can do to help support you starting this journey. The first one of those is having a good routine. Okay, what we are aiming for, and I'm not going to go into this in too much detail, I do this elsewhere, I do this in different places, but not particularly for this video. The first thing we're looking for is a good routine around food. Aiming for most children, 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch and dinner, 2 snacks, either mid-morning and sort of mid-afternoon, either after school, or we have mid-morning, and then if you tend to do your dinner early, an evening snack. So 3 meals a day, 2 snacks, and ideally no more than about 400 mils of milk. And the reason we talk about the milk is because what we know is that if your child is drinking more than that, the chances are that they are dampening their appetite for a meal. And we know that young children regulate their appetite over a good few days. So you might not see it impacting straight away, but if your child regularly drinks lots of milk, somewhere or other, they are going to have a meal that they don't eat so well. Okay, so getting your child into that routine. And the second thing is making sure that your child is always offered some of their accepted foods. So 1 or 2 foods to be in a meal that you know your child usually eats. That means if they sort of say, I'm full, or I don't want anything, or I don't want this, you're not then sat there thinking, oh, it's because they don't like it, this, that, and the other. If you've offered something you know that ordinarily they like, you are going to feel much more confident just saying, okay, if you've had enough, that's fine. This meal's finished. And then we offer food next time there is a meal or a snack. So that is self-regulation. I promise you, your child, if they are allowed to, will eat to their appetite and know how much food they need. If you have any comments or any questions, post them below. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Do give me a follow and subscribe if you want to. Have a good day.